Thanks a lot for having me. My name is Maximillian Piras, and lately I've been thinking a lot about this question: can NFTs save artists from AI? Let me explain what I'm asking here. Generative AI has already taken opportunities from traditional artists. We've seen AI winning art contests, we've seen it designing book covers, and we've seen it creating stock photography. And I'm not suggesting that AI is going to automate all art, but we can definitively say that some opportunities are already being replaced by people using generative AI to get the same output. I'm not suggesting this is necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I'm actually quite excited about generative AI, but there's a few things that really bother me about it, of course, and one of them is this. Generative AI only exists thanks to the artists that it's threatening to replace. This is because all AI starts with a training data set. If you'd like to create an AI that knows how to create something specific like art, you need to show it a bunch of examples about that, and that way it can study it and learn how to create it itself. And you need quite a lot of examples, so usually we're talking the millions of different parameters here. So you start with a training data set, and the problem is you need to gather that. So the question is, how do you get that together? And a lot of the most popular AI art generators out there, the way that they compile this data set is by scraping the web. So they went across sites like Google and just gathered a bunch of imagery, but they didn't ask permission in doing so. So as a result, about millions of artists have had their work ingested into these AI models without their consent, and now the AI can create work in their style. So in a way, you could say that the artists that are now being threatened to be replaced, in a way, help create the thing that's threatening to replace them. So it's a bit ironic, of course, but it's actually all legal, at least at this point. There's lawsuits in motion, but at this point it's legal. It just doesn't seem super ethical, of course. So you got to wonder, as an artist, how do you feel about this? And yeah, they're obviously not super excited, of course. I mean, this is like quite a big threat to their livelihood, and they feel taken advantage of to some degree. So here's a few examples of popular artists kind of venting their frustration. And it's quite a threat to your career, of course, if all of a sudden you now have a AI that can create art in your style within seconds, just at the push of a button. So it's understandable artists aren't feeling super excited about generative AI in the same way that a lot of other people are. But hey, we're at an NFT conference, so the whole point of NFTs is they're supposed to help uplift artists and help them share in the value that their work creates online. So of course, I'm wondering, how are NFTs doing to help artists feel a little more stable during this moment of potential replacement? And well, unfortunately, the creator of NFTs isn't feeling super optimistic that they're helping. Neil Dash created the technology to try to help artists increase the control and the collectability of their work online, but he doesn't really feel like anything's quite going to plan. So that's not a super inspiring sign, right? It's not, if the inventor is not feeling like they're helping, it's not a great sign, of course. But he's just one guy. Granted, he's definitely a smart guy, but just one guy. So is there any data that can help us validate that this concern is actually true? So here's some charts. On the left, we've got a measure of digital collectible sales over the past year, and that's obviously trending in completely the opposite direction that we'd like it to. I mean, we're in a bear market. It's probably not news to anybody. We're all painfully aware of this fact, right? But then on the right, we've got this measure of generative AI searches on Google. So it's just a proxy for interest, and presumably usage is some function of that. But just to get a sense of how excited people are about generative AI right now. And ironically, these charts are like mirror images of each other. So if you want to draw a conclusion from this data, you could pretty much say that we've got this sense that artists' livelihood is trending down, at least in the form of digital collectibles, at the very same time that their threat of replacement is trending up exponentially, unfortunately. So yeah, not a great conclusion you want to come to if you're a fan of supporting artists. And it doesn't seem like digital collectibles seem to be helping that much in combating this threat of replacement. So, with that said, I gotta say I'm a huge fan of NFTs. I think it's a fascinating technology, but when I start to think about it honestly, I'm just not sure that the internet was built for digital scarcity. Digital collectibles, I'm not sure are the end-all solution of NFTs here. When I think about some of the foundational principles that the web was created on, for instance, stuff like information wants to be free, it just doesn't really feel like it fits into the ethos of digital scarcity. I mean, I kind of find it hard to believe that we worked this hard to create accessibility for anything, anywhere, at any point, with just a few clicks to then just put an artificial limitation on it. It definitely works for some contexts, but I'm just not sure this is all there is. And you know, I wonder if there's other solutions that NFTs could be used for. So I ended up stumbling upon this quote from the founder of Midjourney, which is one of the most popular AI generators out there. And Forbes asked him in this interview, hey, did you ask for permission from any of the artists that you ingest into your model that are alive, right? Because they're alive, you can literally just send them an email and say, hey, can I use your art to train my AI with? And his response was no. You know, there's just, the technology doesn't exist today, so it's scale, to do that at scale. So he's dealing with millions of images, and there's just no way to get consent for all of that imagery before you train your AI with it. So it's too bad, right? Can't get artist consent in these generative AI models because there's just no technology that would facilitate things like, you know, metadata. There's no registry of the owners of those imagery, so it's too bad we just can't do it, right? But really, because I feel like there's already technology out there that does a lot of these things. I mean, let's look down the list. We start with metadata. So you're telling me there's no way that I can associate any information as metadata with a digital image? You know, because I'm pretty sure if I go around this conference, there's tons of people with a nice ape illustration who would love to tell me what rare traits are associated with it in the metadata. So that one I feel like probably already have that. Secondly, we need to GUI it, right? We're talking about specific metadata for a specific image. We have to make sure that this thing is unique. So we need a global unique identifier. So one way to say that is, you know, we need to make sure that these digital items that are being ingested into the training data are unique or non-fungible, of course. So that one sounds super familiar. I mean, I don't know if that rings a bell to any of you guys, but I feel like we've already got that one going. And then lastly, we need to know who the owner is. Who's setting the permission for all this digital imagery? We need to make sure it's the right person who's, so we can trust it, right? So how do we find an owner of any specific digital item online? Well, you know, it'd be nice if we could just look in their digital wallet, but apparently that's not available today, I guess. So this is why we can't have artist consent in generative AI models. That's too bad. But yeah, I'm pretty sure we already have something like this. I don't know if it rings a bell to any of y'all, but NFTs, yeah. NFTs do all that already, right? So what if NFTs are the key to unlocking artist consent and compensation in these generative AI models? Think of it like this. The next time somebody wants to create a new AI model, instead of scraping the web and using a bunch of imagery without anybody's permission, maybe they scrape a blockchain. The metadata is added to the image, obviously, and there's permissions set within it. So you can get consent within, with any specific image by just reading the metadata. And it's got an owner already, so you know who set that metadata. It doesn't have to be the creator of that. You know, it could be traded, obviously, and then maybe the permissions change based on the owner. And then if you want to take a step further, you know, at some point these developers are going to want to monetize their models because, you know, generative AI is pretty expensive. So you can't let those servers run forever. Right now they're running on VC funding, but at some point they're going to need another way to pay for that. So if you want to monetize these models without your Napster moment, with this kind of privacy, big debate around privacy and who really has access to that content and can use it like this, well, maybe you could just get around that by distributing royalties to any of the contributing artists. So if you've contributed art to a model and maybe there's some way to figure out how valuable that was to the resulting end product, which is going to be the generative AI. So that'd be pretty cool. And then what do you end up with? You get ethical generative AI. And of course, artists sharing in the value that they've helped create. Well, that to me sounds like the true promise of NFTs, after all. So that's just one idea. I mean, I'll be honest with you, if there's some AI developers in the audience today, you're probably already whispering to the person next to you that this is not quite how it works. So technically, it's not this simple. You can't just throw in NFTs and solve this all overnight. But it's an idea. Obviously, you need some work before it becomes a reality. And maybe it's not the best idea out there. You know, it's just one idea. But the main thing I'm trying to get across with this presentation is that I think we can push NFTs beyond digital collectibles to unlock even greater potential. So it's just a thought starter. If you agree and you're interested in this type of stuff, feel free to keep the discussion going with me. Reach out to me on Twitter or find me after the conference, and I'd love to just put our heads together and try to figure out how we can use NFTs to unlock the world that artists actually deserve. Thank you very much.